Okay, everybody, today we are going to be working on lesson 1.5 in our Go Math materials. For lesson 1.5, you are going to need pages 29 through, I believe, 34. Okay, pages 29 through 34. So if you do not have those pages in front of you, go ahead and pause the video and go grab them. You're also going to need a pencil, and if you want to work on your whiteboard, you can, but you don't need to. Okay, so we are going to get started on page 29. Now, I'm going to just warn you that page 29, we're going to briefly go through this. I don't want you to feel discouraged after we look at page 29, okay? Because we're going to go through and I'm going to teach you a few tricks, okay, of how to do this stuff. And the other thing that's going to be different, when I assign the problems at the end of this video, which you should be watching the whole thing so you know exactly what problems to complete, when you watch the video and you see what's going on at the end and the problems that you're going to complete, you are going to be filling out from now on a Google form with your answers. And I'll explain that to you in a separate video, okay? So for right now, let's just start on page 29 like we normally would. Okay, so page 29, we're at the top where it says unlock the problems. Today we are focusing on multiplication patterns, okay? And I'm going to scoot this down just a tiny bit. We are going to look at this part of the problem here, and we're going to skip over that example at the bottom. So at the top where it says unlock the problem, how close have you been to a bumblebee? I hope not too close, right? The actual length of a queen bumblebee is about 20 millimeters. The photograph shows part of a bee under a microscope at 10 times its actual size. So over here it shows part of a bee. It looks like it's the back of the bee, okay, at 10 times its size. What would the length of the bee appear to be at a magnification of 300 times its actual size? So use a basic fact and a pattern. So we want to know if we're multiplying 300 multiplied by 20, okay? So our basic fact would be 3 multiplied by 2, because if we cover up those zeros on 320, we have 3 multiplied by 2. Let me just zoom in just a tiny bit here for you guys, okay? So we know we can, a basic math fact is one that we can do in our head, okay? So we know that 3 times 2 is equal to 6, and that's our basic math fact, okay? So let's take a look at it. Over here on this side, we're going to ignore those for just a second. We're going to look at everything after the equal signs, okay? So we're going to take a look at it, and we're going to go, okay, we have our basic math fact of 3 multiplied by 2, okay? But then we're going to multiply that by 10 to the first power, okay? That little number, number 1 up here tells us that we have to add a 0 to our product, okay? So we have 3 times 2, which is 6, and the number 1 tells us we add a 0, okay? Now that's the same as 30 multiplied by 2, okay? Now the next part, we have 3 times 2, which we're going to write over here on the line, which we know is 6, but we now have 10 to the second power. That 2 tells us that we have to add 2 zeros to the end of our product here. So our answer becomes 600. Sorry, my zeros are a little wonky there. And that's the same as saying 300 multiplied by 2, okay? Now, we're going to look at this down here. This is different. We have 3 times 2, which is 6. And this little 3 up here tells us that we have to add 3 zeros to the end. So 1, 2, and 3. So our answer is 6,000. So the length of a bee would appear to be about 6,000 millimeters. Okay? If you need to pause this video, go ahead and do that. But I am going to tell you that on the next page, we're going to do a few examples, and I'm going to teach you some tips and tricks. So if you want to keep watching and then come back later, you can do that, okay? So let's take a look at Page 30, okay? Oh, sorry, there's the bell. Okay, page 30. We are at the top where it says share and show, okay? Page 30. So let's take a look at this together. So the direction for number 1, we're going to look at that one first, says use mental math and a pattern to find the product, okay? So one thing I'm going to tell you, mental math, that means that you can do it mentally in your head, okay? Now this is where Miss Van Etten and her awesome tricks come into play, okay? We're going to take a look at 30 times 4,000, but we're going to pretend that we don't see any zeros, okay? We're going to pretend that we don't see zeros. So we're going to look at it actually as 3 multiplied by 4, okay? And I want you to write that down below so you know that that's what we did. Okay, and we can do 3 times 4 in our head. 3 times 4 is 12. But now this is the part where we have to give those zeros a place in our answer. So we have to add 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros to the back of this 12. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, that's a lot of zeros. Then of course we have to place our comma, so we go over 1, 2, 3, and place it. Okay, so our answer is 120,000. Okay, we used mental math because we used 3 times 4 first and then just tacked on the zeros at the end. So down here it says, and we kind of already did this part, it says, what basic fact can you use to help you find 30 multiplied by 4,000? Well, we wrote it up here, 3 multiplied by 4. Okay. Now, down below where it says for 2, 3, and 4, it says use mental math to complete the pattern. This is going to be a little different, okay? And I'm going to start off with number 2 because it's pretty simple. We're just multiplying by 1 here. So that's why I want to start off there because we can do those in our head, okay? So they start off with 1 multiplied by 1, which is just equal to 1, right? Now we're going to look at it and we're going to say, okay, we have 1 multiplied by 10 to the first power. Okay, people see that 10 to the first power and they kind of panic and go, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. You know how to do this, okay? We look at our 1 and that little number 1 up above the 10 tells us that we're going to tack a 0 on. So we have 1 really times 1, which is 1, and we tack a 0. So our answer becomes 10. Okay, same goes for the next problem. 1 multiplied by 10 to the second power. That little number 2 right there tells us that we're going to tack 2 zeros on. So cover up the 0 and the 2, and we have 1 multiplied by 1, which is just 1, and we tack on 2 zeros. So your answer is 100. And finally, 1 multiplied by 10 to the third power. We're going to look at it and we're going to say, okay, we are going to be adding 3 zeros to this problem, okay? But first, we want to look at it and we want to cover up the 0 and the 3, and we want to look at it as 1 times 1, which is just 1, and we add 3 zeros to the end, which gives us an answer of 1,000, okay? Now, if you look at number 3, we're going to do number 3 and number 4 because they're both a little bit different and you're going to need to know how to do them for your homework, okay? So number 3, 7 multiplied by 8 equals 56, okay? Now, then they break it down even more and they go, okay, 7 multiplied by 8, and then they multiply it by 10 to the first power, okay? We're going to focus on what's inside the parentheses first. So we have 7 times 8, which is 56. And now we're going to look at that 10 to the first power. And this number 1 above the 10 tells us that we tack on 1 0. So your answer is 560. For the next one, we have 7 multiplied by 8, which is 56. And we look at that little 2 above the 10, okay? So the little 2 above the 10 tells us that we have to add 2 zeros. 1, 2, and our answer becomes 5,600, or you can say it 5,600. If at any point you need to pause the video or go back, please do so, okay? Don't just keep watching and be confused. 7 times 8 we know is 56. And that little 3 up here tells us that we have to add 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. So we now have 56,000. All right, let's take a look at number 4. Number 4 is a little bit different, and I'm going to tell you why, okay? So first of all, they give us, they give us a basic math fact. 6 times 5. We can do 6 times 5 in our head. We know that that is 30. Okay? Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky, because here in these blanks, we have to put a 10 with an exponent, but we have to figure out which one goes there. Okay, so first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at what's inside the parentheses. So we have 6 times 5, which is 30. Now, the thing that helps me out the most with these ones is I like to write 30 off to the side. Okay, now, they've given you the answer of 300. Okay, we have 30. They have an extra 0, so that tells us that it should be 10 to the first power, because we would add an extra 0 to give us the answer 300. Okay, let's look at the next one. We have 6 times 5, which is 30. And they've tacked on 2 extra zeros here. So we know that it has to be 10 to the second power, because they've added those 2 zeros to their answer. And that little number 2 tells us they added 2 zeros. Same here. 6 times 5 is 30. But look what they've done here. They've tacked on 3 extra zeros. So we know that we have to put 10 to the third power. Okay, so these look complicated. They look super scary. But really, if you break it down and do them just a little piece at a time, they will be super simple. If you have to pause the video at any point, please make sure you do so. Okay? Please make sure you do so. We are going to look at a few of these down here that says on your own. I don't know why there's writing in this book. That's very strange. That's the first time that's happened. This is actually a brand new math book. Supposedly it's a brand new math book. So I'm going to hurry and erase this stuff, and we're going to work on a few of these together, okay? Sorry, guys. I wish I would have noticed that before I got started recording. But it just goes to show that even teachers make mistakes, so it's okay. All right, let's take a look at this together, guys. So we're going to look at the on your own portion, which is numbers 5, 6, 7, and then these ones down here, 8 through 16, okay? So it says here, use mental math to complete the pattern. We're going to look at number 6 and number 7 together, okay? And then we'll do a few of these down here. So number 6 says that we have 3 multiplied by 7, which is equal to 21. Perfect. Then we have 3 times 7, which is 21. And that 1 above the 10 tells us we have to add 1 0. So our answer is 210. That exponent tells us a lot about our answer. Okay, just remember that. Then we have 3 times 7, which we know is 21. And we have a little tiny 2 above the 10. That tells us we have to add 2 zeros. 1, 2. Place our comma. So we now have 2,100. I want you to pause the video and I want you to do this one. And then you come back and see if you got the right answer, okay? So you should pause your video right now and come back. All right, let's go ahead and do it. You should have paused the video so you can see if you got the same answer as me. 3 times 7 we know is 21. And that little 3 up above the 10 tells us we add 3 zeros. 1, 2, and 3. So we're at 21,000 for our answer. All right, let's look at number 7. This one's a little bit different because we're going to be adding the exponents here, or the base and the exponent, okay? So we have 5 times 4, which is 20. And down here we have 5 times 4, which we know is 20. And they tacked on another 0. So we know that our exponent has to be a 1, 10 to the first power. Okay, again down here, 5 times 4 is 20. They tacked on 2 extra zeros, so we know our exponent has to be 2, 10 to the second power. I want you to pause this video and do this one here, then come back and see if you got the right answer, okay? So go ahead and pause your video. Let's go ahead and finish it. So we have 5 times 4, which is 20. They tacked on 3 extra zeros, so that tells me that my exponent has to be a 3, 10 to the third power. All right, let's look at the problems down here. 8 through 16 says, use mental math and a pattern to find the product, okay? Product is just the answer to a multiplication problem. So when you see that, what they're telling you is just find the answer, okay? All right, let's take a look at it. We're going to start with number 8 because that one's the most, it looks pretty simple, and I think it'll be a great starter problem for us. So the first thing we're going to focus on is 6 times 6, which we know is 36 because we can do that in our head. And that little number 1 above the 10 tells us we have to add a 0 on the end of our answer. So our answer is 360. Okay, let's look at number 10. We're going to skip over here to number 10. So we have 9 times 8, which is 72. And that little number 2 up here tells us that we have to tack on 2 zeros. So our answer is 7,200. I want you to try number 13 and then come back, pause the video, come back and see if you got the right answer, okay? All right, you should have paused it and got an answer for number 13. We're going to do it and see if it's right. So we have 2 times 8, which is 16. Whoops, sorry. 16. And that number 2 above the 10 tells us to add 2 zeros. 1, 2. Your answer should be 1,600. I want to do number 14 and 15, and then I'm going to give you your problems for homework, okay? So, 14, we have 6 times 5, which is 30. So we're going to write 30 on the line. And that little 3 tells us that we have to add 3 zeros. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. 30,000. Okay, number 15, we have 8 times 8, which is 64. And that little 4 tells us we add 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, and place your comma. 640,000. I hope you got those answers, okay? If you need to go back and watch this video, please do so, okay? Please don't hesitate to do that. We are going to be skipping page number 31 and 32 because I want you to get some time to do your practice problems. Okay, so page 33 is where your practice problems begin. Okay, so it says practice and homework, lesson 1.5. Put your name at the top. And you are going to circle the problems that I'm going to have you complete today. Make sure you circle these problems. Please make sure that you are working on this right away because you are going to go after you watch this video and fill in a Google Forms with the correct answer, okay? You will fill in a Google form with the correct answer. All right, so you're going to work on number 2, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, guys, the light turned off. These lights are automatic in this classroom, so they turn off after there's not a whole lot of movement. Okay, so we've got 2, 4, 5, 6. Then you're going to do number 7, 9, 10, and 12. Then on the back, which is page number 34, I want you to do number 1. Just number 1 on the back, okay? So again, circle these problems if you did not. If you have to go back and see them again, you can. So we've got on page 33, which is the first page of our homework, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 12, and on the back, number 1, okay? Number 1. So that is a total of 9 problems for today, okay? 9 problems for today. If you have to watch this video again, please do so. Don't forget to go watch the video about filling out the Google form, okay? That is how I'm going to track your math every day from now on, okay? So go watch that video about the Google form. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.